Has there been any development on the Crawford fight yet, bro?
Shit, you gonna have it? Oh shit.
Right here. It's right here, yeah. All right.
This way, champ.
So what's your reaction to the Canelo loss, bro?
Did it happen?
Huh?
Did it happen?
Right.
Hey.
You got knocked out for real?
The biggest fight in boxing is you against Bud Crawford. You have 3 belts, he has 1 at 147. Is this fight going to happen?
I think it's gonna happen. It's a fight I definitely want. I definitely want it this year. So hopefully we can make it happen. But I think we can make it happen because I want it, he want it, and I think we can come to terms and we can fight this year.
Where do things stand as of now?
I'm just talking stages right now. They're talking right now, but he definitely wants to fight. And I told him he definitely wants to fight, and he's been vocal about him definitely wanting to fight. And like I said, I called him out this year after my fight and said, that's the guy I want to fight. That's for the Undisputed. I feel like it's the biggest fight in boxing. I feel like that's what all the fans want to see, and I think it's a huge fight for both of us.
You don't see any stumbling blocks?
I don't see any stuff in the box because, like I said, I want it, he wanted. I got all the belts on my side. I got 3 belts. He got the 1 belt, so that's all the belt I need to become undisputed welterweight champion of the world. And it's something that I've been very adamant about. It's something I really want to do. So we're gonna get it done.
I'm here with ShowTime President Stephen Espinoza. First of all, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm excited, man.
Okay, you guys decided to put Fulton fight on the same night as Devin Haney versus Kambosos for the Undisputed. Why do you guys put together so many fights on the same day as other fights? Wouldn't it be more beneficial to put the card on a day that doesn't compete with other networks?
Well, yeah. Well, 2 things. Number 1, they're at different times. Since that's going to come on in the afternoon. And secondly, when we set that, and we announced this back in March, the Kambosos fight wasn't made yet. So actually, Kambosos, put it on that date, and that fight got made after we had already announced Fulton. But the reality is, I don't even blame them. Sometimes you have a choice, sometimes you don't. For them, they've got a big venue. It only was available certain dates. And it's the same thing here. Look, boxing isn't a high priority for a lot of venues. So when you have a venue, you sort of had to grab it. Sometimes, for example, look, you can look at the Charlo Castano fight. We announced that, 2 months ago, and now all of a sudden we've got 2 other fights in the Southern California area, on the same night, at the same time. Now, I don't really give a shit because those are not good fights, and they're not getting promoted, and they're nothing near the quality of an undisputed title fight, but it's still a bad look. It's going to hurt their shows more than it's going to hurt ours.
I guess what a lot of fans want to know is this year we've had a long drought with no fights. Then these last 2 months we've had, non-stop fights. Why don't you guys spread the fights out year round so we can have fights year round to watch?
Well, look, there's a lot of reasons. For example, in March, nobody wants to go in March because of the NCAA tournament. And that's just tough to compete with. It's so big.
Gotcha.
Same thing late January, early February. Nobody wants to compete with, AFC Championship, NFC Championship, Super Bowl, things like that. So then once you get past March, then things sort of open up. And really, until you get to sort of June is sort of tough with the NBA Finals. So it's sort of like, in order to maximize our audience, we need to sort of we need to stay away from those nights when all of the sports fans are watching something else.
I guess another question a lot of boxing fans want the answer to is if fights were not on pay-per-view, wouldn't it help it grow a little bit more? Because all right, I'm gonna say it like this: what type of viewership does a fight need to produce for the fighters to get paid the same amount of money they would get paid in a pay-per-view fight? Is it even possible for a fighter to make the same amount of money on free TV than it would be on pay-per-view?
It's not. So let's just take. It's not possible. Let's just take a relatively small pay-per-view. Let's say, 250,000 buys. That's pay-per-view revenue, depending on the deal. That's about $15 million revenue to the promotion.
Okay.
So, and you say, look, even at 200,000 buys. That's at least $12 million in promotion. There's nobody, no network that's paying, $12 million, for the license fee, whether it's free TV or premium or streaming. They're not paying $12 million. If they are, they're not making a good business deal. So it's sort of like, yeah, you're right. It would be better for the sport if pay-per-view didn't exist at all and there would be more viewership. But at the same time, you can't really hold it against the fighters. If they have an opportunity to make $5, $6, $8 million on a big fight, it's hard to say, look, you've worked your whole career to get to this point. I'm not going to take that away from them. If they can make it, then all power to them.
Okay. Why was the Andy Ruiz and Ariela fight on pay-per-view? It wasn't a big fight, so, wouldn't it have been better on regular TV?
Yeah, look, that starts to get into stuff that, I'm not privy to on that side, but there can be reasons. The network might have said, look, we're not paying for it to put it on regular TV. If you want to do that fight, you have to put it on pay-per-view. Because obviously the network, if it's not pay-per-view, has to pay something. So whether it's $2 million, $3 million, whatever it is, the network might have said, look, we'll put that on pay-per-view, but we're not going to pay for that fight at all. In which case, then the promoter has no choice.
Let's switch gears a little bit. Have the negotiations between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford begin yet?
There's been some early discussions, but my philosophy on this one is I really don't want to play it out in the press because I think that is one thing that's going to negatively affect the promotion. I think then people's egos start getting involved and stories and rumors get out. I think this is one where the more quiet we keep it behind closed doors, the better chance we have of making a deal. Having said that, the real question is, I really see there's only one obstacle, and that is, if the fighters are reasonable in their deals. If they are expecting, Mayweather-Pacquiao paydays or something huge, then that's not going to be realistic. How big is this fight? It's hard to tell. We know what Spence does. We know what Crawford has done on his own pay-per-views. I don't know how big this is. Is it 500,000 buys? Is it 1 million buys? Is it more? There's some risk there. So I think the reality is should try to make a reasonable deal that makes the fight happen. We just want to make sure that the fighters don't price themselves out of the fight.
Is there any chance that Spence is looking at any other opponents right now?
Not that I'm aware of. Look, he'll be at the Charlo Castano fight tomorrow night. But I haven't heard him mention any other fight since the Ugas fight. This is the only one that he's really focused on.
So has the Errol Spence team contacted you guys about a fight with Crawford?
We've been in touch, So, and there've been, some early conversations with Crawford. So I think everybody wants to make the fight. It's just a matter of numbers.
Reporters came out and said that Canelo only made 15 million plus pay-per-view versus Bivol. Were you surprised that Canelo turned down 100 billion for Charlo, Errol Spence, and Benavidez? And why do you think Canelo chose the zone offer when it was significantly lower?
It's a good question. The deal was the offer was $100 million for Benavidez and Charlo, or Benavidez and or Charlo and Charlo and Spence. Any combination of the three. And I do believe that the zone offer is lower, but the reality is, Canelo's got plenty of money. At this point, there are other factors. He wants legacy, he wants history, a new division, and maybe be able to get undisputed in a new division. And I respect him for making that way. That's the great thing about boxing is, you don't have to follow anybody else's path. You can choose your own.
News came out that Ryan versus Pitbull Cruz is going to go to purse bid in June 14th. If both teams don't come to an agreement, how confident are you that this fight is going to actually happen? Are you guys even negotiating this fight at this point?
It's between the promoters right now, so I can't tell you what discussions they've had. As for Isaac Cruz, look, I think that the big question, at least from my perspective, is where is it? If Golden Boy is going to, insist that it goes on DAZN, that's going to be a problem, of course. And the reality is, there's, as a pay-per-view fight, that's going to do better as a Showtime pay-per-view than it would be on DAZN. I mean, we've seen that. We've seen the Canelo fight was bigger with Plant than it was with Bivol. It did a bigger gate and it got more publicity. So the reality is, it's great that a sanctioning body orders the fight, but if the promoter gets in the way and insists that it's on, a platform that may not make sense, then that could kill the fight, right away.
There's a lot of demand for Benavidez versus Charlo. Do you think this fight is ever going to happen late, hopefully this year?
Yeah, I think it's very possible. I don't think either one of them is worried about not taking that fight. I think, Charlo's been looking for a big fight. He tried to make Canelo, he tried to make Munguia, and when those didn't happen, by that point, Benavidez already had a fight. So he took the best available opponent. I'm not sure what Munguia is doing. To my knowledge, he still doesn't have a fight. He should have taken the Charlo fight. He still doesn't have a fight announced. So you can't blame Charlo for not wanting a big fight. He did everything in his power to get one.
Well, my last question for you is, Showtime saved boxing this year with their schedule, like always. When can we expect the new schedule to come out for the
It's
for
a
the
good
fall?
question. Believe it or not, we're working on the second half of the year, right now. So I don't know if it's a couple weeks away, maybe a little bit longer, but we are looking at what's going to happen in the second half of the year, and we'd like to make an announcement before too late.
Mr. Espinoza, I appreciate you for your time.
No problem.